as I said, so you think about outsourcing, you're sourcing talent outside of your company, and so how do you decide? The key question is, how do you decide what to outsource, and why would you even outsource when you can just use in-house talent? So that's the question: is do I go with in-house talent or do I outsource? So what to outsource? The key question is, what is your core differentiator as a company? So would it make sense for Google to outsource their search algorithm? That would not make sense because that's their core differentiator, right? So that is where their IP lies. That is where their value lies as a business, is in the way their PageRank algorithm worked. And so if they were like, oh, we're going to build the search engine, we're going to outsource the algorithm, then what is their differentiator as a company? Where does the knowledge is lying out? If the key knowledge and IP is outside of the business, that wouldn't make sense. And so that's why you wouldn't outsource that. Now, should Google outsource how they run their specific marketing team's internal processes, building that software? That they can outsource, because that's not what differentiates them, right? That's something that they don't need to have their PhD stat guys working on. And so it's one of the key things you want to think about when you think about what to outsource. Second question is, when do you outsource? So a lot of times people try to move quickly, and they try to just say, okay, I want to build a product, I have an idea of what I want, I'm just going to start outsourcing. In reality, you want to make sure you know what you're looking for. So if you're trying to outsource a product and you tell, what's your name? Ina. So if Ina says, I want to outsource a product, okay, and you're telling Dave, like, well, we need to outsource. Now, if you just tell them, like, oh, I'm trying to think, I want to build, like, an Uber for dry cleaning, right? Now, that's not enough of detail, right? That's not enough of detail to actually get you started in outsourcing. You need to have a lot more fine-tuned thought process around what exactly, right, we're going to outsource and what that entails. And so that's one of the key things is before you outsource is make sure you're ready. So one thing that here, this is a great way to think about outsourcing versus doing things in-house. So things based on strategical and operational importance. So in-house, these are the Google algorithm, right? That's very high strategic and high operational importance. If it's low strategic and low operational importance, you shouldn't even do it because that's a waste of your time. And then if it's in these ends, you outsource, right? So most companies will start off with like you can outsource your HR, your legal services, advertising, your tech. You work with agencies that help you execute on these. You work with an ad agency here. You work with a staffing agency here. You work with a law firm here. You work with a dev shop here. Okay, and then in-house is what's your core IP, what's unique to you. That is what you're going to do in-house. That's what your resources are. So if you wanted to ask, what are the 4 questions to ask before you want to outsource is, do you know the details of what you want, right? The specs, the features. And then how are they prioritized? So a lot of the times people will say like, I need to build an app and it needs every feature because our app is super important and it's unique and we're gonna change the world and we need 100 features. And these are all the features we need to do. We need to do everything that Uber can do, our app needs to be able to do on day one. That's actually not the way you should start. The way you should start is, let's prioritize our features. Put them in order of importance. And then you can get a sense of, okay, which of those features actually differentiate you from anyone else? When you know that, then you're much more capable and much more able to actually make a decision of which of these features are we going to start with. Because you're not going to start with all your features. And that ties in a lot with your budget, right? So if you're Amazon.com and you're building a new product, a new feature, like when they were doing AWS or whenever they're building something new, their budget is obviously huge, and they can really do a lot more because of their scale. If you're a startup and you're running off your personal capital before you raise a round, obviously your budget's a lot slimmer. So you can't. The features you're gonna select is also gonna depend on your budget. So that's another thing you're going to think about. And then the key question is, can I even complete the most important features in my budget? If I can't complete the most important unique feature that is what differentiates my application, if I can't complete that with my budget, we have a problem. You're not going to be able to outsource. So you have to think about that. So those are the quick things. Setting up user flows. I'm going to start off when you think about, those are the quick like outsourcing, kind of how to think about outsourcing from a high level, okay? And now, when you want to outsource and you want to engage, the key is to set up a user flow, okay? Now, whenever you're trying to set up a user flow, the challenge is you need to be able to think through the screens that every stakeholder is going to come across. So let's take an app that you guys, like you mentioned, let's take an app that Josh met, Uber, okay? Who are the stakeholders in Uber? What are the types of users? The drivers, that's one type, stakeholder, yeah.
And the clients.
The rider, yeah. Yeah, second type. The admin, like Uber, the company Uber itself, the customer support, the admin Uber, right? That's a third type of. Within the admin Uber, there is the customer support team, right? The customer support team of Uber has one access. Then there's the management and exec team, have their own flow. Different from customer support, they're probably looking at more revenue numbers and more like overarching traffic data. And now they've partnered with cities, like the city of Boston, right? So the city has their own login. So you see, these are different flows. And so your user flow, you're designing user flows, and you come with a customer flow, only one flow, and you're not thinking about the admin, you're not thinking about the supplier or all the other stakeholders, then you're missing something, right? So Facebook, people think Facebook just has a customer flow. Facebook has a customer flow, a business flow, advertiser flow. So you have all these different users. Facebook itself, the admin, Zuckerberg is probably seeing different things from a lower person in the company. So I want you guys to either, hopefully you guys have a pen and paper or something, take an app that you love, that you use every day, or an app that you are thinking of working on, and just kind of try to think through the user flow, like how you would just take the core customer, the main customer of your product. So if it's a B2B product, the business that's going to buy. If it's a B2C product, the consumer that's going to consume the product. Take that first user flow and just think about the screens that they would come across, and kind of either draw that out or use your computer or mentally do a mental picture of how that screen would work. And then we can go through your mock-ups and see what are you guys missing out on. Are you thinking about user flows in the right way? And are you understanding how user flows work? Does anyone ever understand how to draw out a user flow? Right, it's like screens, and it's like a tree. Like you go through the first. I can actually give you guys an example. I can do this over here. Let me do this here. So this could be screen one. So the key challenge that people have when they do user flows is they forget that there's different flows depending on your first time user and a repeat user. So if you're going on Spotify, the first time you ever signed up on Spotify, you probably had a different experience than when you were on Spotify, than you currently sign up on Spotify, right? There's no more to sign up, you're auto signed up, the funnel's different. Same for Uber. The first time you sign up, they ask for credit card information, it's different. A lot of people don't even think about these things, but they're important. So you have the sign up flow, which is the first time you come on. You're going to land onto screen one. Let's say it's a login page, okay? And then after the login or sign up, right? So they're going to click sign up, and then after they click sign up, you're going to have another screen, and then there's going to be another screen where it's like go to your email, confirm with the email, and then once it's confirmed, there's that screen where you're now in the system, whatever it is. For Facebook, it's your home page. For Uber, it's the map page, whatever it is. Okay? For login, then you come and you have here, and it's either that screen itself, or there's data now, and you're going to have something else when the data starts to fill up, right? So the first time I land on Facebook, this isn't your home page. This is friends that we recommend based on integrating with your email. Where there's no home page, right? When the first time you get on Facebook, you have no friends. So the first time you sign up, you don't see the home page. So this is actually a different page from this, right? Whereas if you're on a site like Google, right, is a box. And if it's a box here and it's a box here, regardless of how many times you search. Okay? So you can think about that as the user flow, right? So that would be the sign up flow. So just kind of draw it out, like whatever you like. You love using Google, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, whatever. And think about the user flow or an app you've been working on, your app you've been thinking about. And let's kind of draw out that user flow. Do it first try doing it without looking at the app. But if you want to look at the app, it's fine. It's just better to kind of test your own memory of how much you pay attention. As you design these mock-ups, you'll see that you get a few things wrong, or you miss out on subtle things that they do. I know some of you guys are still working on it, but maybe we can start off with one person's kind of thought, if anyone wants to volunteer, with what app they chose, if it's their personal app or if it's an app they currently exists, and how they thought about their user flow design.
I just thought of Pandora.
You thought of Pandora? Okay, awesome. Okay. Yeah. So what did you draw out?
So basically, like it was, first time you log in is Pandora logo, and it's like login. It's just like, it's a very simple Facebook login. Go on. So, yeah. And then from there, it goes automatically like, okay, choose your stations now, and it automatically says, okay, so add a station, and then it just keeps on going. And then once you choose a station, from that it goes into station, album cover, all the info, and then you just start hitting this. Either you like it, thumbs up, thumbs down. You skip over, you play, pause. So, but if you log in again, it automatically goes to your chosen stations list. Again, you can choose or add, or go directly to which stations you already have on your list, and it automatically cycles through all the songs.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So let's look at something Pandora does on their UI. So, when you're on Pandora, they have a few things that they have to keep in mind when they're thinking about it. So the first thing is we want to make a very simple flow, and we have to think our web flow and our mobile flow. Their mobile flow is, the key with mobile is that you can't do a lot of mobile. You have very limited functionality that you can do on a mobile app because it's a smaller screen, and you want to think about how we're designing phones. So Pandora knows that their key customer is the person listening to music, but at the same time, the way they make money is from ads and Pandora Pro. So when they design their product, they say, okay, we're going to come here, and you're going to have at the top, okay, choose a station, the common search bar type experience. They have a plus sign there to get you, and as soon as you click on it, they have recommendations here. So they'll recommend stations based on things that you've listened to. So let's say I have a station here that's 90s, okay, music from the 90s. Now, if I listen to some music in the 90s and I thumbs up a song in whatever, like with some band, then what they would do is they would recommend me having they would recommend the station here, that band, right? And so they're very smart about, okay, how do we get more adoption of the product? We give them good recommendations. And so as they start to see my behavior here, what types of songs am I skipping? What's unique about those songs? Let's downplay those and up the ones that they're getting. So they have this recommendation feature, and the reason they do that is because they want it to keep it sticky. Then they have the other stations here, and then at the bottom they have like recommended stations as you scroll down. Okay. Then when you click on a station, you get another page here, where this is the login flow of user. Okay. This is different from the sign up flow of someone who's not a user. So when you come over here, they have a line. This is the mobile version, right? So you have a line over there. They have play, pause, the skip buttons, and then here they have what they really want you to do is they want you to thumb up and thumb down. Okay? So they have the album cover, as you mentioned. They have another here, like thumb over here that you can click. And they have kind of like the song that's being played, and like the details of the song. The second thing that they've done here is over the image of the album cover, they have an image ad. So these image ad placements that come up have to be very intelligent because you don't want to take up the whole picture. You want to see that, okay, it's an ad. They have an X button on the top right, and it will be Sometimes it will correlate with the music ad. So every 3 songs, or if we do like probably 8 songs, they'll have a voice, an ad that comes on like through voice. And sometimes it will coincide with this ad, sometimes it won't. But they're very thoughtful about how they do these things. How often they put ads, when they put the ads, that whole experience has to be very thought through. And so if you come to a dev team and you tell them, okay, this is the ad. I want you to I want these rows, okay, for the station, for like the types of stations. Do some recommendation thing. Come here and you do this, and we want an ad over there, and then add also in music. Now, what the developer is going to see here is the developer is going to see, okay, this is great, right? I can do this, but on what how are we being smart about recommendations? They don't have information here, so you want to provide details here on each page. What's going on? What does it mean? And this is like a good. If you send them mock-ups with some specifications about those mock-ups, what does that mean? On click of this button, this is what happens. On mouse over, different things, subtle things will happen on mouse over. As I move my mouse over this button, it turns yellow. When I click on it, it's permanently yellow. And those are things that no one talks about. But you gotta think about, okay, well, what are the things we're doing to help create the behaviors that we want people to be able to do? Then you can they have arrows here, so people were on the treadmill and they listen to a song and they're like, oh, that was a good song, I forgot what it was. I can go back here. I'm not changing the station, I'm just seeing the name of the song and the album cover, right? And so those are all things that we still haven't even spoken about. Then it's like, on what basis are we placing ads here? They need to talk to an ad network, right? And this ad network is going to take specific information to decide what ads are going to be placed. Then the image ads have to be vetted for pornography, nudity, and a bunch of other things depending on the application. So if that's not done, if that's not thought through properly, you could be posting very inappropriate, irrelevant ads on your app. People don't even talk about like, oh, just do ads. Probably shouldn't even do ads on your first MVP because it's a whole another ballgame, and you have to track a bunch of data, and you have to then say, okay, what profile you're going to be sending them data on, like what music they've played, so you have to track that data, right? And so, and all these things to be able to send it to them, and what you're sending them, and blah blah blah, etc. etc. Then you want them to sign up for Pandora Pro. So how often do you tell them a pop-up? Try Pandora Pro. That's another feature. How often are you going to do that? You don't annoy them. So there's a delicate balance. The other thing you want them to do, okay, in mobile apps, as you guys know, there's a mobile app store. And the way you're ranked on the mobile app store is dependent on the number of downloads, whether or not Apple features you, and the number of reviews. So you want people to write for your review. How do you recommend them to write for your review? Again, it's like the try Pandora ones. You can't keep pushing them, write a review. You got to do it intelligently. And then the hard thing is, how do they give feedback, right? So you guys remember what Maps did for feedback? Remember what they tried to do? So the thing with the mobile app is that there's only like one button on the bottom, and then you have you have a small real estate. Like you don't have a lot of real estate to play with. So do you put a big send feedback, give me feedback button? That's hard. So what Google Maps did was a shake. You shake it and it says give me feedback. Now the problem was Google thought this was great and it worked reasonably well, but the thing was that like sometimes you're walking and your hand shakes. I'm sure it's happened to you guys. You shake and it's like send feedback. Like, no, I want to see where I'm going. Stop giving me send feedback buttons. And so they had this problem. So they actually are starting to move away from that. But it just gives you an example of these design decisions that you have to make when you're working on smaller real estate, as opposed to when you're working on a desktop interface. And this is all going to change dramatically when you think of watches. Because the watch interface is different type of input. Things are going to be done over voice. So how do you think about voice or the crown, the digital crown? So you're going to think about these things differently when you think about design. So the key thing is like, where does the eye go? Where do you want their eye to be, and how do you want to incentivize specific behavior? Because you really want this feedback from them, right? And that's why they kind of centralize. And now they have new things like see all the songs that you've thumbed up, right? And this is how many thumbed ups you've done. You've hit 1 billion thumb ups, things like that. So now you can see what types of music you like and how that works. But you want to be able to say like, okay, when they push pause, obviously the music stops, right? And it's not that complicated. But like, how many skips can they do before an ad comes up or before they don't know how to do that? There's a lot of things there with the UI flow that are matter of law. And that's enough of Pandora stuff, unless you get it. But you can see how just these two mock-ups and like a very basic spec doc sent to a developer is actually creates a lot of questions. So a lot of times people will come to us and be like, okay, we need to outsource this. This is what I need, and like I'm gonna be very busy. I'm a very busy person. I have no time. Okay, give me this. I have $25,000. Do it, and I don't have time to talk to anyone. Just get it done. And it's like, by the way, all these questions that come up, the developer is gonna have to make an assumption if you don't want to talk to them. And most of the time, each person has very personal preferences and has their own personal preferences as to what they like. Depends on your own personal experiences. So do you want them to be making assumptions, or do you want to be there and helping them make the decisions for them? So that's the main question. And usually you gotta speak with them regularly. So that's the biggest problem in outsourcing today is communication. And the clearer you can communicate this, the more successful your outsourcing engagement is going to be. Any other products? Anyone working on their own idea product that you want us to kind of just think about? Or the apps? There are a lot of apps that we use. I'm sure if you just pull up your mobile phone, your homepage, you have like at least 20.
How did you do open table? So
Open table, yeah.
you you can register. You go through
Yeah.
the registration process.
Yeah. You're talking about the mobile version.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So you either first time user, so you register, and then I think just one screen.
Yeah.
And then you can immediately reserve a table.
Okay.
Or if you're going back, you're automatically logged in, and you get onto the page where you can select the date and number of people,
Yep.
search restaurant by location, and then select the restaurant. And then there's a confirmation page.
Yep.
And then a trigger email that's sent.
Yep.
Yeah.
With like the confirmation information, exactly. So one of the things with these types of conversion flows, you have to think about it. The best way to think about it is like a funnel. So we'll get into this in detail when we look at e-commerce. This is how you think about it. You have a funnel, right? The first part of the funnel is everyone who lands on the app. Okay? So they come into the app. It's like if I'm putting, and they land on the registration page, right? X number of people, right, are gonna leak and not register. The remaining people have registered. Now you have so these are people who land on the site. These are people who are registered users, right? And that's a smaller number of people. Then after they registered user, they have this page. So then you have, of those people who register, how many people actually run this search, right? It's here. And then after they search, they have this browse page, where the browse selection page, right? So they have all their options and they can select. Selection page. And then there's the checkout, which is the confirmation, checkout confirmation. Now, the goal is, at every level, at every stage, there's some leakage, right? There's a decrease in amount. And you try to do with your app is you want to minimize this leakage. On each stage of the funnel, your goal is to minimize this leakage. So the way you minimize it is by decreasing friction, which means like any complexity, simplifying the app. You don't want to do too many things. You can have a simple interface. And third is by experimenting with different messaging, different colors, and different layouts. That is going to help you optimize this funnel. And so it's a very simple funnel. And like if you look at most mobile products, they're very simple. And the reason is because first it's small realistically. I can't do Facebook can't have the same layout that they have on their site. Imagine if you got onto Facebook's mobile app, it's like this, right? And you have here the events and groups and whatever, and then here ads, right, and have birthday stuff, and then here would be this would be the feed. Would never work. This feed is going to be way too small, right? And it's like this and this is going to take up too much of the page. So what have they done? They made this center and full. Okay, this is the feed here, right? And then they have a small button here with this guy that moves the page to the left, and you get chat people to chat with. Then they have a nav bar on the bottom, navigation bar on the bottom. So, do you remember how much? I don't know if you guys remember this. Do you guys remember what Facebook played around with, like in 2011 when they first started to move on to this? Remember what they did with the nav bar? Okay, well, they played a lot around. They played around with a lot. So it used to be on the top, and it used to be 3 messages, notifications, and friend requests.
Is that not still the case? At least
No,
on my Facebook app it is.
They moved it to the bottom now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
On my Facebook app it still comes up at the top.
Okay, you have.
I need to update
You
it.
have an old version.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So they moved it down to the bottom. Yeah. And did you have iOS or Android?
Android.
Android.
Yeah.
I doubt it's at the top.
Okay.
I'm talking about iOS.
Okay.
But it might be. In any case, and now they have 4 on the bottom. They have the feed, they have the messages, they have notifications, and then they have more, see more, something like that.
I'm sorry, it's iOS on this, but yeah, on my Android it's different.
On your iOS? Oh, because that's a tablet.
Is that? Oh, and then it's completely different.
Yeah,
right?
no, it's different on the mobile.
Okay.
Yeah. On the mobile, it's different.
Okay.
So I'll show you quickly on the mobile. So that's how the nav bar's on the bottom, the search box on the top, and so they have these things on the bottom and then more. And so what happens is when you click more, it moves you out here, and then when you go back to the home feed, they have that button over there that pulls it. It's gonna push the
The
screen.
chat, right?
Yeah, there it pushes out, and then I push it back. Okay, so it's all about creating natural flows. And another thing you have to think about a lot is the input methods, right? So one thing that no one mentioned, but like Tinder, what's interesting about Tinder is like it works really well on mobile because it's a very natural thing on the phone. The cards, right? The left-right motion on the card, very natural, right? On the laptop, it's not as natural. Like you're gonna move your one and you're gonna move like your mouse, right? It's not as natural to do that. But on the mobile, it works well. On the mobile phone, if you make someone write a lot of text, that's not a good experience, right? Why is Google optimizing their voice search? And they always say voice search everywhere. You can easily search on voice. Because when you're searching on your phone, voice search is just much more convenient. And they've just been investing a ton of resources into voice. Because it's going to simplify your input. Searching on the phone and typing is not a great experience. And imagine that on the watch. Mm-hmm. So this is why what they're doing is they're saying, we're going to do, instead of having, let's say I wanted to do a form. We didn't go into detail about it, we just say registration, but we have to think about these forms. So usually you have these forms. And the forms are usually boxes where you type information. Right? Now that's pretty annoying on a mobile phone. The more you have of this, the more leakage you're going to have. So what do? There's a few things you can do. Instead of having a text box, what you do is you have radio buttons. So a radio button says, if I'm asking you for gender, right? Instead of giving you a box, I just tell you male, female, and you just select the box. That's much easier than you typing male or female, right? And these radio buttons, it just makes it much faster for you to go through the experience. So that's the type of thing that you want to think about when you're trying to reduce leakage from this funnel. And so at the end of, these are the customers. And the goal is that you want customers to repeat also. That's another thing you're optimizing for, right? Which is repeat usage. So the more you can do with repeat usage, it's all about remembering things, right? As you mentioned, like if you've booked on OpenTable at the same restaurant a bunch of times, the flow is not like, oh, I gotta go back, say like Mexican, they know like this is where you're gonna eat, this is where you're gonna, like these are options that you're gonna go and speed up the flow. So you gotta create that experience for repeat users. Anything else you wanted to mention on Open Table? Okay, but you like that.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Anything else? Anyone has a personal idea that they're working on? No? Okay. Don't be shy. Like, this is a small group. Everyone seems pretty laid back. No one's going to judge. We're all learning. Okay. Cool. Now we'll go into. I wanted to go through 2 main types of products that we always interact with, which are e-commerce apps and marketplace products, because that's most products are e-commerce or marketplace products, right? And this stays in the case for e-commerce. Let's go through this, and then we can jump on board. So Facebook notifications. So on the web app, they have these 3 people, these 3 options, and then they have these whenever there's a notification, a new message, or a friend request, they have this kind of stuff. So in the past, they had messages and this. The friend request used to be on the far left. You guys remember that? No? They experimented with this a lot, and they kept on changing, and they got this again. So, in any case, it's been like this for a couple years now, so that's why you guys might have forgotten. But there's an extension. What do you guys think about this, first of all? Why do you think they did this like that? Why do you think they restructured it in this specific way? Any ideas?
What was before?
It used to be, the friend request used to be on the far left, and then they experimented moving the messages in different ways, and the logout button used to be here.
So just all migrated towards the right?
Yeah.
Is it just because thumbs, or just the way you hold a phone?
This is on the web, though.
Oh, is just a natural migration towards the bottom right? Is that
So,
easier to
let
see?
me ask this question. Maybe this can help. What is Facebook's ultimate goal? When Facebook sit together, Mark Zuckerberg with the head of product, what is their number 1 goal?
More users.
More users? Yeah, that's one thing. What is their number? But this is existing users. When they're looking at existing users. Connecting. Why do they want more connections?
Because the more people connect, the more integration you get, more data they can collect. All that kind of stuff.
And the more engagement.
Yeah, right.
Right? So they want engagement. So their goal is they want people to be more engaged. So they're trying to create a habit. The habit that they're trying to create is that whenever you have free time, whenever you're bored, or whenever you don't know what to do, you go on Facebook. And they don't want you to think or question it. They want you to just go on Facebook and make it a habit. They want it to be natural. So when you land on the site, right, so you get onto Facebook, they want it to be a natural thing. They want you to have an experience that's going to keep you there, right? So how do they keep you there? Well, if you land on the page and you look at your home feed and there's nothing interesting, you're just going to go out, right? And if log out button was here, you just click log out, nothing interesting. But what have they done is they've made this right place here a home for you to just get lost. Oh my God, this is this red, and this is it's gonna get you, you're gonna click on that for sure. There's no way you're gonna not click on these red buttons, right? And then you're gonna click on it, whatever it is, and you're gonna see what it is and you click on that. And they've designed it in such a way that your mind, without knowing, is just gonna naturally keep clicking on it. And you're never gonna click here, go all the way down and click log out. You're always logged in. Even if you close the browse tab, they still can track you. You're always logged into Facebook. Because they don't want you this login. If you click log out, the next time you have to log in, that's going to cause leakage. So they want to move you right here. To get you started at this level, they need to not get you to log out. So to not get you to log out, they added that arrow. They did this 3 years ago. They added the arrow. Okay, so now this one. Now, there's a Chrome extension, what it'll do is if you change this red to color, the reds to gray, and it doesn't whiten this thing, you will never click on a notification ever. If this goes to red, you don't even notice it because it's like grayish blue and you kind of don't see it. These aren't white, so this contrast, red, white, and that bright red, it's not there. You'll never click on any notification and you won't be as engaged with the site. And so that is a small thing. And it probably increased engagement by a lot more than you think because when you first land on the site, you don't want people to bounce, and you only have 3 to 8 seconds to reduce that bounce. Okay? You have to keep people on, you click on this, and now you have someone engaged. You click on a message, oh, I just got a message, what did the person say? Oh, I need to respond to them. Meanwhile, my home feed's changing, and no more notifications are potentially coming in that are going to be read again. Maybe more messages come up, so we get more engagement. Another thing we said was we noticed, right, as Facebook, was that if someone just wrote a message, if I just said like going to the beach, right, that's great. Someone might like it or be I'm also at the beach, right, and maybe comments they like comments because it's going to create conversations. But what is much better than that? When someone posts,
Sharing.
when someone
Sharing. Right?
shares, yeah, when someone shares posts, but when someone posts a video, because when someone posts a video, they're hanging around. The video takes much longer to read than I'm going to the beach. If I have video content, so what did they do? Anyone remember what they did with video? Very recently.
Autoplay.
They put it in the newsfeed, yeah?
Autoplay.
Autoplay with silent audio. Amazing. You just scrolling through your feed, all these videos that you wouldn't have clicked on are suddenly playing. And as they play, you're like, oh, let me just see what's happening. And if they're good videos, you're going to keep watching. And now you suddenly are watching a video which is taking you minutes to watch, while more time for notifications and messages to come up. So autoplay is very powerful on web and mobile. And what did they do also? They autoplay Facebook video. They killed YouTube videos. If you post a YouTube video, they'll kill it. They won't give it good because they want Facebook video. Facebook video, they're going to autoplay. YouTube video, they're going to make it hard for you to even get the video up because they don't want you using YouTube anymore. They want using Facebook video. And so they're growing Facebook video and they're growing usage, and it's amazing. But their goal of what they're doing in Facebook to get you addicted to this product and to get you just in it is unreal. And they've created a habit. They've literally changed your habits. It's no longer like, should I go on Facebook or should I do this? It's just like, let me quickly check Facebook. And the quickly turns into longer than quickly because of Facebook's design. E-commerce products. What are your favorite e-commerce stores? Amazon? Yeah, Amazon's pretty powerful. Yeah. Anyone else? What?
REI.
REI? I haven't used that actually, but
Outdoor.
okay, cool. It's for outdoor what?
Outdoor apparel.
Oh, outdoor apparel. Okay, cool.
Guilt.
Guilt, yeah.
White plan.
What?
White plan.
Yeah. Okay, you guys get the gist, but like, and so anyone have specific things about e-commerce user flows? Like I talked a lot about Facebook. I talked about silly things. Let's see if you guys have paid attention to e-commerce design things. What do they do that you like, or what do you do that you think that incorporates some of the things and concepts you spoke about today?
Makes it easy, frictionless. Amazon saves all my information.
Yeah,
My wish list, my credit cards.
yeah, 100%. So credit card is for this flow. They're trying to optimize checkout flow, right? Wish list is trying to optimize search. You don't have to search. You just go straight to select.
And the recommendations.
Recommendation is also here, making it easier for select, right? They're just optimizing. Everything comes back to this funnel. Optimize the funnel, and you're going to improve your conversion rates. Anything else that these guys do?
They offer like just an automatic pull down menu for like electronics, books, all that kind of stuff, and whatever kind of categories you think of.
Yeah.
Search bars, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. True. So one of the biggest challenges in e-commerce is that when companies like Amazon, what they're trying to do is they sell such a huge variety of products that it's to create an experience. It's hard to create kind of the layout of you have this page, right? And you're trying to optimize how you're laying out this page to get people to find what they want in the fastest way and transact. So they have to think a lot about how they're designing their product. They've played around with it a lot. And, recommendations has been huge for them because they know what you bought before and they know what other people who buy what you buy are likely to buy, especially with books and things like that. Or like, if you buy a kitchen sink, you might buy other products in the kitchen. It sounds like you want to be in your kitchen, something like that. So you can start to see how you make associations and become very smart about it. But the other things that a lot of companies in e-commerce have done. So we have types of e-commerce firms that are like Amazon, right? What Amazon does is it basically they buy a ton of product, they hold it in inventory, put it in work in these warehouses, and then you get the products. But the products are not made by Amazon, right? Then that's kind of like e-commerce 1.0, right? You're buying products that are in a warehouse, and there's obviously also a marketplace concept like eBay where you're buying a product that someone else has. Like I have my iPhone, my old iPhone, I'm selling it. What is the new type of e-commerce companies we're starting to see come up, especially in New York? What's different about them? Warby Parker, Bonobos, Birchbox, even kind of Guilt. Something not as much, but Guilt somewhat.
Less features than traditional. I mean, there's not as many click-throughs as like if you look at Amazon, it's kind of busy versus like
A Warby, yeah.
Right.
True. Harry's, Dollar Shave Club, all these products, what they've done is they've kind of taken a vertical. Let's take a vertical, eyewear. Let's take a vertical, the Bonobos, like men's clothing, right? What's it called? Birchbox is subscription, but all these businesses, what they've done is they said, we want to brand our products, and only way we're going to differentiate is we're going to own the whole supply chain, we're going to brand our products. Our razor isn't any razor that you get on the market. Our razor is Harry's, and Harry's is an awesome brand that you guys are going to love. And it's a fun brand, and we're going to own that. We're going to have our own manufacturing facilities. We're not just putting these products in inventory. And they're owning the whole experience, but they're very verticalized. So they can say they have a very different product experience, because they know when you come on Harry's, when you go on Dollar Shave Club, you're going to buy a razor, okay? And so that makes it a lot easier to design experiences. The last one I want to talk about before I get into examples is travel. So I'm sure most of you guys have at least booked something online for travel, right? A hotel, a flight, etc. So what do you guys use for flights?
Deals.
Deals? Yeah.
I mean,
like flight deals
I mean,
or
yeah. What is on any?
on what?
On any flight company.
Yeah, you'll go on the flight company side. So you'll go on like BritishAirways.com, USAirways.com, and you'll search there for deals. Okay. Then you use like marketplaces or
I usually go on Skyscanner first.
Skyscanner. Yeah, sure.
Expedia.
Expedia. Kayak. Yeah. One more big one.
Priceline.
Priceline. Yeah, Priceline's pretty big. Travelocity. Yeah. So Expedia actually just bought Orbitz for like $1.5 billion. So Expedia owns Orbitz, and those are the two biggest guys in travel in one. But they do a lot of things to streamline your experience and your flow. Let's look at travel and then we'll get into this. What did Kayak recently change in their interface? Anyone pay attention? What's annoying when this is something that like I actually was shocked it took this long for them to figure this out, but they only did this like I think it was a year ago. One thing that's very annoying when you search on travel is you're always experimenting with different dates and different locations and different travel routes. But you have to have like 50 tabs open to keep track of things, and if you're using the same site, like if I'm using Orbitz or Expedia multiple times, sometimes it refreshes the other ones, so I have to use different browsers even. That's really annoying. So what did Kayak do? They just created an in Kayak tab. So I'm in Kayak, right? And they just created, when I search something on Kayak here, they created these tabs. So if I search, NYC to LA on date X to Y, and I don't like it, it comes up here as a tab, and then our next search will come up here. So I can just quickly navigate between them. I don't have to push back or anything. It's just a very quick navigation. That helps so much because it's much faster for me to see things. And that improves this whole part here, which is search and select. So that funnel is going to decrease because you're going to stay on the site. As soon as you get me out of this browser, I'm trying different tabs, I'm going to start trying other sites. They keep it inside. The other thing they've done a good job of, this left nav bar. So one thing we didn't speak a lot about is the navigation bars. So how you're navigating. We spoke a bit about the one on the mobile, but so navigation bars are very important. It's like how you're accessing different things. The left bar is like a common one, and then the top bar is a common one. For mobile, companies are doing bottom. Instagram has it on the bottom. Facebook has it on the bottom. Snapchat has a very interesting one where the navigation is actually horizontal. So it's like if I want to navigate on Snapchat, I move the screen right, navigation, right again, navigation. Okay, so it's a bit different. In any case, so then here they say, okay, what are you searching for in flights? And like landing and takeoff, you can choose the time you want to take off and land. You can choose specific airlines. You can choose 1 stop or 2 stops. So all these filters they put over here, right? And the reason they do that is that they want search to be simple and easy. So they just let you search. They could have made a long form. You land on a search box, and they would have said, how many stops do you want? And you say 1 or 2. What time do you want to take off? What time do you want to land? Which airlines are you open to traveling? What is your budget? 50 questions. What would have happened? Huge leakage over here. No. Here, where, blah. Search. Give you everything. Filter. In search filter. So as you filter, auto updates without refreshing the page. When you push this button, this thing will change, but it won't be like the whole page will refresh. Only this part will refresh. It's like with Gmail. If I get a new email, I don't have to refresh the page. The email will just come up and it'll say new. That's using Ajax. It's all about how do we, this is a very important thing because what happens is you're going to reduce engagement as a result of that. So travel does a very good job. They do a lot of other things, but we're going to talk about the subtle things that they do. These are the high-level things that they do. Now we'll look at some of the subtle things. Okay. So what do we have here? E-commerce. Okay, cool. Warby. So Warby is a great success story in e-commerce, right? One of the few companies that was really able to grow very rapidly and do a great job, and they just focus on eyewear. So the first thing they do, you come onto their landing page, and they have a big image over here, and it's a traditional like e-commerce landing page. But what they've done is before you get to browse page, they didn't want you to have a lot of clicks, a lot of different pages. So this nav bar is on the left. This is the navigation, right? So when you click men, it just auto pops down. It's not changing your page. So they don't want it to move you. As soon as you move people to other pages, you're going to increase one. But you click men, it comes down optical or cellular. Optical. And now they take you to the browse page. So, but they're taking you to a directed browse, a smart browse page, right? And you're never typing a word. See, it's just telling you men, optical, and you have optical page, right? You're not typing anything, it's very quick. Now, this is the home page, right? After the home page, you have the browse page. So what they've done is they've done a 3-column browse page, right? You could do 4 columns, but it would be tight. They wanted it to be spacious and comfortable. It's a pure white background, very good imaging, nothing around the images. It's basically just a white, simple layout, right? If you want to filter, you can. A bunch of filters, but they're telling you these are our best products. They have the name. It's a very simple, easy interface. You just click on the image, so you're on the browse page. Now, after the browse page, what usually comes after browse page on e-commerce? Sorry?
The PDP. The
Product detail, exactly. PDP, exactly. Product detail page, yeah. Exactly. So the key thing here is when you move between the browse page and product detail page, does the product detail page come up as a pop-up or does it go into another page? And the second thing is, how do you optimize the product detail page to the add to cart? It's like, what's the key call to action? You have to always think on each page, what's your key call to action? The key call to action is usually to move them to the next part of the funnel. And so here the call to action is add to cart. So when you think about the they have like available options, add to cart. Okay. They have a bunch. They have home trial. They have this thing called virtual trial, where you can virtually try on specific glasses on your face. You take a picture of your face, and they'll like intelligently place the glasses on your face so you see how it looks. Right? They did not do this at the beginning. Right? That was not. You'll have people come and they'll say like, I want to do virtual try on or something like that. At the beginning, probably not a good idea, right? You have enough of things to test against when you're starting off. Virtual try on you can try later on, right? There's a lot of cool things you can do with clothing. You take a picture of someone in their gym clothes, like very tight clothing, and you can like drape clothes over their body. You can try to show them how clothes look. Still early, right? So a girl is probably not going to buy a dress just based on a picture of her with a suit. I don't know. Has anyone bought anything on online based on these 3D imaging technology? You guys? No? So it's still very new and it's not that one, but it's like hard to like, if you're buying an expensive dress, you don't want to buy it based on some image that's not perfect, or you want to kind of try it on and see how it actually looks. But virtual try-on with glasses works better, but it also takes time to engineer and build. You don't want to do that in your MVP. Okay, so here it is, virtual try-on, right? So you basically go like, this is an example of them virtually putting on these glasses on her face based on the picture. It's pretty cool, and then you can share it and kind of make it social and get it engaged. Okay, I really like their checkout funnel on Warby Parker. So the checkout funnel, usually what happens is you ask someone to sign up. And it's a big controversy, like everyone argues around what you should do. Now, what's the advantages of signing up versus not signing up?
You obtain their information.
Sorry?
You obtain their information.
Right, exactly. So if they sign up, I get their info, right? They don't sign up, but when I put sign up, I'm creating another leakage opportunity. So what they said, okay, let's give them two options, but left, because you're reading left to right, let's make this the main thing. I'm new here. We don't want to lose someone. We want them to log in if they can, because I want their credit card info to be tracked to an email, to a login account, so the next time they come on, they don't have to go through a checkout funnel, and I have data about them. I can email them, they can be part of my listserv, I can give them better recommendations, right? But that's great, and like marketers will see all this stuff. And then product people will say, no, we got it, we want to reduce leakage. And so we give them the option to unmute. So we do that on this page. One thing is in most companies, what they'll do is you click here, it takes you to another page. What they do is it just kind of, on the same page, it just loads and goes down as you go down. So I like that experience because it helps reduce leakage. So that's the part one of the page. So part two, it pops down. And what's interesting is your credit card info here, promo code if any, review and submit. The shopping cart is there on the submission page. Usually, when you click product detail page, add to cart, you go to a shopping cart page. Then you approve, then you go to a checkout page. They made the shopping cart page and the checkout page in one. And it's one experience, and it's kind of reducing the one. So you really want to think about that whole part, review and submit versus how to optimize that process. Okay. The One King's Link, has anyone used One King's Link? Okay, they're actually pretty big. In any case, when they were building their product, they do smart things to create sense of urgency and to optimize the where do you guys think on this funnel, by the way, on the e-commerce funnel, what do you think is the biggest problem? What do you think is the biggest problem in this funnel?
Keeping people there.
But which part of the funnel is the problem?
Oh, yeah.
Landing page.
Landing page is the problem, definitely. What's the biggest problem?
Registering.
Not registered, actually.
Right?
So
Checkout. It's too far.
the biggest problem here is this checkout page. Because whenever someone has to actually put their credit card info or even just make a purchase, there's this like this stigma of, oh, I can wait. I'll do this later. Unless there's some sense of urgency. The checkout thing is people spend a lot of time thinking about. And so what does Orbitz do or Expedia do for that? Or airlines, what does the airline industry do for that?
They time.
Sorry?
They time how long you're on the page.
Yeah, the time how long you're on the page, and then you lose that page, you lose that reservation when you're on the site, yeah. Another thing airlines do, so you guys, airlines, they have a revenue optimization piece. They have a revenue optimization system. As a business, they have a revenue optimization system, and one way based on the timing of your reservation on a flight, they're going to give you a different price point. If I book a trip to London to now for tonight, it's going to be a lot more expensive than if I'm booking it for in 6 months in let's say October, right? Because first, it depends on the seasonality, right? Is it a high season or low season, timing? Second, it's the dates. So what the airlines want to tell me is that if you book early, you're going to save a lot of money. And so they create this kind of urgency, like, oh, I need to really figure out my flights for the year early on so I can buy. And so anything you do, all these types of things are to create senses of urgency. So what did One King's Lane do? Another thing they do is they'll say 2 tickets left at this price. I don't know if you noticed on Orbitz, they'll say 2 tickets left at this price. So you know that if you keep thinking about it, that price is going to go very quickly. And so they give you this data to kind of to move quickly. Well, One King's Lane is as soon as you add, see, they have this one left of this product. Okay? So it's giving you this like, oh, if I really want this, I got to get it now. Because I've only got one left. Another thing they do is when you add something to cart, not only do they give you a 10-minute limit, and then, so this product add to cart as a reserved item for me, right? But they say your item is only. I should get water soon, but they said item is reserved for 10 minutes, and they give you a countdown clock. Look how big that numbers are. It's much bigger than every other font, and it's in orange. Why is it in orange? Give your attention, right? Attract your attention. And so they have that go at 9 minutes. They have this one there in orange, and they have the checkout now button, all optimized for you to convert. If that number, as soon as you're going around and you see that number going down, your speed is going to be much faster. Oh, I got 9 minutes left. Let me quickly see if there's anything else I want to buy, and I'll do it. All trying to create this, optimize this checkout flow. This is a very good trick to increase conversion. So here, so they have this. Oh, this is before Christmas, right? So rise by December 23rd. That matters. They have the 22% off, and so there's a few things that they're doing here. Okay, so the first thing is the one left we talked about that. The love is just the wish list thing. I like it, but I don't might not buy it now. I like it. The other thing they're doing is they're creating the sense of this is cheap. They don't have to say 76 strike through, but what 76 does is it anchors you. Oh, this was 76. You're getting it for 59. If I remove this, you're like, oh, it's $59. I put it to, oh my god, it was 76, I'm getting it for 59. So you see the difference? They're changing your mind. Same thing here. 22% off and the other. So trying to see like, what are the questions that you have on this product detail page? They want to give you the answers. Right up front, when it arrives, the discount, how many are left, everything, so you can transact. Cool. How are we doing on time? 8 something. Let's get water, and I know you freshen up, and then we'll go to marketplaces, and then we'll go into more detail on like how to outsourcing fundamentals when you're actually outsourcing it. Oh, thank you. Cool. All right, so if you guys want to get water, we'll take like a 5-10 minute like intermission thing before we get into marketplaces. You can just like.
Yeah. Well,
So the next thing I want to talk to you about is marketplaces. So you know, VenturePact is what we're doing is a marketplace. What are Uber is a marketplace? Any other marketplaces that you use?
Airbnb.
Airbnb, huge marketplace, yeah.
Booking.com.
Cooking.com.
Booking.
Booking.com, okay.
Yeah.
Marketplaces.
Community Sports Center.
Yeah.
Groupon.
Groupon. Etsy. You don't use Etsy? No.
No.
Thought it was popular among women. I don't know.
Fancy giving is also, although
yeah.
that's a bit strange because
Yeah.
you don't really pay for things on there.
What about eBay?
No.
Huge marketplace. Okay. So there are 3 types of marketplaces. First type of marketplace is a marketplace where you have buyers and sellers, and they're free to do whatever they want. Right? You can. It could be an auction system where the supplier can price whatever they're selling in any way they want, and the buyer can come and buy the product. It's kind of like it's a free-for-all marketplace, and that's eBay. That's kind of example 1. This is like marketplaces in the 90s. That's how these marketplaces started in the 90s. The second type of marketplace are marketplaces that started in the late 2000s. Okay, and those are marketplaces where you have reviews, where you have some sort of vetting, right? So like Airbnb has reviews, okay, and you can see who's been there before, and they have trust certification. So the layer of trust on it, but it's still in the sense of like you can go and you can buy somewhere that person can set the price for the asset which they're selling, which is in their case, which is their apartment or their place in it. Similarly with Etsy and other products. The third type of marketplace is like Uber. Uber, as a driver, as a supplier of services, I don't actually set the price, right? The Uber driver doesn't say, oh, you can take me only if you pay $15. There's no negotiation. The price is set by the marketplace itself. So what Uber does, Uber sees how many drivers are available, how many riders are demanding services, and based on that, we're going to set a price. Now they've fixed price based on gas, length of travel, tax, etc., and then they add a surcharge, surge pricing, based on demand versus supply. And to increase, if there's more demand than there's supply at that time, they'll surge. Okay, and that's actually very efficient because it decreases any need for negotiation. There's no more like, let me look at each driver and how much each driver is going to charge me. There's no decision-making process. You click one button, and boom, they give you a car. Usually it's got 4 stars, usually you're going to take it. There's no like, let me see every driver, right? They say you really just care about the closest guy, right, or girl. And that's it. So that's the third type of marketplaces. In any case, let's think about UI flow. So one example of the flow is there's a get started and learn more about it. When you're trying to get on when the client-facing side, there's a client-facing side get started, and then there's a supplier side. So usually it's client-facing because you have 2 different flows in the marketplace. You have the buyer and supplier. So usually the buyer is the one that gets the main page. The supplier is the one that comes up there and you click on the supply side. And then on the client sign-up part, you try to minimize what you ask for, right? So at the beginning, we tried to get all the specs of a project, and we realized we had like 2 to 3 pages of questions and stuff like that. Then we reduced it to these few questions, and we're reducing it. Today it's much smaller, and over time that's going to go down to a much simpler search. And the reason why we reduced the amount of things is that, like, really, if you think about it, so for a developer search, you need to see, are you getting a team to execute on a project? Meaning, I'm outsourcing one product, or am I augmenting my team? Like, I have 4 developers, and I need to augment my team with another 4 developers. Then you can have a title of a project, a category, like a web app, mobile app, types of the dev talent, start dates, all this information helps, right? But the longer the form, the more friction you're going to have, the more leakage. So there are a lot of things you can do to reduce this intelligently, like Kayakins, with filtering. And then sign up. So a lot of people say, wait, you're letting people fill out this form and you might have friction and people drop out without signing up first, right? Because now if someone leaks here, we have no idea what's going on. We can't communicate with them. We don't know why, we don't know who they are, but we move client sign up to the second part because of that. We move client sign up to the second part to streamline that process. But this is just an example of a basic flow. Let's look at Uber's flow. Marketplace, and then we can choose a marketplace that you guys like. So Uber's the sign-up flow that Uber has. Uber has a very good credit card sign-up flow. I don't know if you guys have seen their credit card. Because when you sign up, you have to put your credit card. And so they do it in a very efficient way. So you'll get on, okay, Uber the first time, they'll have a picture of a girl in a car, in a really nice black car, and it's a GIF. So it's like you're going, and then they'll have here, register and login. And then when you're on, they'll have like, if you're logged in with Facebook or whatever, they'll have a lot of data pre-filled. They'll get name and like birthday or something, like very minimal information. And then they'll go into credit card. When they go into credit card, the credit card page, they basically have credit card, CVC thing, and the expiry date. And it's like, they made it in such a way where as soon as you start filling out the numbers and they're like, okay, like if it's like a 412 whatever, then it's like Visa or MasterCard, and they don't have to say Visa, they know what it is from the number. So they have like intelligence there. And then they like, what's it called? They don't make you fill out this info, you can select the numbers, and then CVC is the 3 numbers in the back. So I like what they do there, that like the experience is pretty good. Then what they do here, which is very powerful, and very few companies can do it. When you open the page, when you open the app, the first thing you see is, this is gone, but this was search, register, checkout, selection. And then it's like shopping cart or whatever. But yeah, so search something. So the interesting thing is, they are in an amazing position where the first thing you land, you're already on your selection, and even then, they just basically tell you time, how much time you have to wait, 3 minutes. So you're not even choosing between cars, you're just saying, yeah, get me a ride. and that's really powerful. Now, what is why can Uber do this and other companies can't? That was the question I asked. Why can't Airbnb do that?
Because of value proposition. Value proposition. So,
Um,
so like basically, like, so for example, a ride will only cost you like $25 maybe, but like, you know, Airbnb will cost you maybe a couple of $100 or $1,000. So there's a much more detailed process that has to go through with that. You know, more
That's
simple.
one thing, correct?
GPS. I mean, the fact that they're constantly monitoring exactly and tracking exactly where you are. So distance-wise, it's constantly current. It's always real time, as opposed to Airbnb. Did you say Airbnb? It's a
Airbnb, yeah.
right. So, I mean, I don't get like the
Yeah.
comparison because you don't do it in times, but you don't always know exactly where you are using the GPS on your mobile.
Okay, so so you guys yeah. So the main concept is the Uber. So as any marketplace, you have to think about what. So you have the buyer and the seller, right? Now, what information do I need from the buyer to match them with a seller? That's the key thing, right? That's what marketplace's job is. Uber just needs your location. That's all I need. All I need is one piece of information that I can get from the phone. The phone has a sensor system. The phone is on your body. I can get your data. All I need is that input, which is so powerful. So I'm auto doing the search for you because the other, like, they don't need you could argue that they should have preferences of driver. You know, do I have a preference for age of driver, experience of driver, sex of driver, etc., etc., etc. You could say they could do that, but they realize that these things are not that. Right? So that's all they do, and they match you. And then the only thing you need to make a decision is time, and you're going forward. Very powerful. Now let's look at other marketplaces. Airbnb. What information does Airbnb need from you?
Where you want to stay?
Sorry?
Where do you want to stay?
Where are you going? Exactly. They don't know that from your GPS on your phone. They don't know where you're going, right? They know where you are, but they don't know where you're going. What else do they need to know?
Dates.
Dates. So they need inputs, right? And then other things, they could ask for neighborhoods here, but they don't ask for neighborhoods. Neighborhoods are post-search. You could optionally put them in, or you could go when you're searching and you can select neighborhoods, or you can focus on specific areas. Okay, so that's why they have that data. This is similar for other marketplaces like Orbitz and Experience. Okay, now for the marketplace, for what we're trying to do, right? What we're working on, we spend our time on. It's like the buyer is someone who needs tech. Supplier is someone who supplies tech services. Now, if someone needs tech, needs development, right? Within development, within software, kind of, right, you have design type projects, you have development type projects, you have, web, mobile, data science, and then you have embedded system type projects, so projects that are Internet of Things and wearables, where you have hardware and software. And then you have projects that data science, IoT, wearables, and then you have projects that would include some computer vision type thing. Within web, then you can say gaming, digital currency, PHP, .NET, Ruby, Python, etc. Right? So now there's like a lot of things here under dev. So you could create a selection menu, and you can think of each language here. Within design, it could be mobile design, it could be ad design, within the UI, like image design. It could be web design for your web app. It could be design of sensors for your wearables, IoT. Within wearables, you could say like, oh, I need a beacon product. I need a sensor on some kitchen device that speaks to the mobile app, so you have dual requirements. So you can see how complex this is. Now, this is just telling you what you need. Now, for us to match you with a developer, though, we need to know if you have a location preference, right? If I need Because I don't want to show you a US developer if you're in London and you want a British and London developer in London. So that would make that much sense. So then you say, okay, there's location. But then even within London, right, there are developers that work with like HSBC and there are developers that work with startups, right? So, do you want an HSBC startup or do you want a development team that works with these types of enterprise or do you want a startup type? So then we need either like a size of company, right, et cetera, et cetera. So you can start to see like how we filter. Then we're also trying to see, well, the size of what you're looking for. And then sometimes, like if we don't know your budget, sometimes you say like, oh, I want an enterprise. Some companies will say, okay, I want enterprise because we need this to be perfect. Like luxury firms will all say like enterprise with like design focus because luxury is all about great design. But then they'll say like San Francisco, New York, mostly New York, like for luxury. But then their budget will like say, well, New York and enterprise is an expensive budget. So you'll see like there's a lot of information that they don't understand that because they don't know how to price this. And so because it's a foreign thing, you get to see all these nuances and complexity, and that's why we had all those questions. But then, if we're trying to reduce friction and make it more convenient, you have to think of, we always ask the question like, okay, what is the most important thing, right? The most important thing is this part, right? Once you have the developer, right, the last thing you want is if you're coming with it for Internet of Things type, you're doing a new type of jawbone, a new wearable, and you get like an amazing gaming developer. That is not relevant at all, right? Now, this type of things you can filter. You can filter them the same way Kayak does later, and you'll kind of get to see maybe like, okay, I can see this is enterprise and the budgets don't make sense for me. I should go for mid-market or startup or whatever. And so you start to filter. So it's all about optimizing the funnel, but as you see, as you get into more complex type of services or more complex types of offerings, it becomes much more intricate and much more complex than this, which is the most amazing thing. I already know everything you want before you tell me anything, right? It's very powerful. But you can start to see that. Now, on the supplier standpoint, the complexity goes in kind of varies in direction too. A driver, you need him to have a driver license. That means he knows how to drive. You need to make sure you do a criminal background check. Right? That's what I need from him for him to sign up. And then I need a method of payment. Method to give him money. And if it's, if this person's in the US and this person's in the US, the payment process is in that company. With Airbnb, it's a little more complicated, right? That person, your buyer is going to live in their house, so you want to do more intricate background checks. So they do they have a whole trust and security system. They have a $1 million insurance guarantee. Well, the $1 million insurance for the buyer if the supplier is not good. And both ways they have insurance. Insurance on their goods because they're getting it. They also need, from the supplier, obviously their location of their apartment, photos. They need a bunch of photos of their apartment, and they hire photographers. It has to be nice photos. They don't want someone taking a photo with their they started in the late 2000s. Most people didn't have the iPhone 6 or the newest Samsung, which takes reasonably good photos. So that was a problem with your old iPhone photos. So they need good photos of it. And then they need reviews. But then you have the marketplace problem. If they just signed up, how does your first user know? By definition, if you are the first user, that means that every other supplier has 0 reviews. That's the definition of first user. So every new supplier will start off with 0 reviews, which is much harder, which is a hard thing to do. But then you have to build that out over time. So not for that. For dev suppliers, this goes on forever, but I can give you guys a small example. So the first thing is you have to review all their past clients and their experiences and speak with them. Call them up, talk to them about everything they've built, their whole portfolio, any open source code that they've written, how they write code, what they've contributed to. Third, the internal tools and systems that they use to manage communication and remote work and communicate with them. 4, who the developers are and their developer profiles within the team. 5, an actual test to see them how they build software, how they build it. 6, you need their own internal photos of all their products they've built. The portfolio that you reviewed, we need screenshots of that to surface. those client reviews need to be posted on their site, and you have to make sure that you're allowed to show what you can show, and then like potentially like video of the office, blah 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 blah. And so the complexity of these marketplaces goes like that, but also the size of transactions changes, right? The size of transactions here are small, here are bigger, and here are bigger. So you can, this is kind of like a good way to think about, when you think about marketplaces, you can look at these two forces and understand that there is this chicken and egg problem, right? So like, if I'm an Uber rider and I come and there are no drivers, that's not that good. Obviously that's bad. And so Uber's like, oh, we'll just get a bunch of drivers, right? But now you have a bunch of drivers and there are no riders. They have a bad experience. They're like, there's no one buying. I'm just hanging around. So there's this seesaw that you have to really be intelligent as you build out each side of your marketplace. You want to think about. Okay. Any questions about marketplaces? Or I can go into a lot more detail about it, but those are the buyer and the supplier sides. I'll go into a bit of admin stuff and then if you want to. Other some stuff. Good? No? Yeah? Yeah. The third type of, the third thing you guys need to think about is like what data are we tracking about each side, how they're communicating, and that's the admin panel, which is very important. But you don't need to go into too much detail about it, but it's basically very important for Uber to know where their demand is coming from, because if Uber doesn't know, so Uber has to tell their drivers where they should hang out, right? Uber's goal is to get this number less than 3 minutes. If it's less than 3 minutes, you're more likely to transact. If it's above 5, you're less likely to transact. You just get a cab or you're waiting, depending on where you are. But Uber is very important for them to know. We're in New York City. Let's see how good I'm not an artist, but let's just. That's Manhattan. So you're over here, and this is like Broadway. It's like that. So you're over here on in what's it called? In GA. And so Uber knows that around Flatiron area over here, if there is there's a lot of demand around like 8 p.m. Because these are startups, they probably leave around 8 p.m. There's a lot of demand. If they communicate that to drivers, that's good, right? They say, hey guys, check around over here, pockets of demand. So you can do a heat wave of demand by location, and then you can have a timer here that I can just change time, and I can see in the past, on average, where is the most demand. It's super valuable data for the admin, right? But if you never communicated this when you're building the product, that data is not properly tracked, how it's presented, etc. If you think about it, so the admin needs to see this. The admin also needs to see the quantity. So okay, there's a lot of demand on this side, but how many transactions, what's the total payments, quantity that's coming through, how payments are coming. So payment comes through the system here. Buyer pays X. Fraction goes for taxes. So like, and then 8%. A fraction goes to supplier. A fraction goes to Uber. Okay, and so that has to be built into the system. And so then the admin needs to be able to see what's been deposited, what's been received, has there been any problems, and then whenever there's a problem, like a buyer argues about some mistake, then customer support needs to be able to see those receipts. Enough of marketplaces unless you guys have questions. But common mistakes. Okay, when someone outsources product, the first most common mistake is like forgetting even an admin panel exists. Right? Like, what is the admin panel? The admin panel is what the admin uses to do things, and this is extremely important in consumer products. Right? Again, if someone is posting something, let's say I'm on Facebook, and I post a product, I post an image that is against Facebook's guidelines, or YouTube, and I place something that's against YouTube's guidelines, right? A common issue is like porn, or nudity, or something that's like inappropriate or derogatory, right? If the admin panel needs to be able to remove those posts, so that's a feature. The admin panel's ability to go in, see what's going on, and remove posts. And this, think about how hard it is to do this though, when you have like, Facebook has 1.4 billion people, right? All of these people are posting a ton of stuff, right? So they have to be intelligent about how they decide what's good. Forgetting other users. People who say like buyer, supplier, and they forget like, we have an advertiser, how are we talking to the advertiser, right? A big mistake. Forgetting responsive design. People are building a web application, and then afterwards they say, oh, like it's not looking well on mobile. It's like, oh, if you want it responsive, we have to design it responsive from the beginning. Now this is kind of assumed, but you still have to say it. Make sure you say that. Is it responsive? Forgetting user feedback. Not even talking to customers, and you have like a 9-month project, you're putting like $50,000 and you've never spoken to the user. That doesn't make sense, right? You want to make sure you're speaking with users, understanding what they like, what type of feedback you're getting from them, and what's their thought process on it. There was one other thing that just came to my mind that slipped me. Other users, responsive design. Oh, another thing very commonly forgotten is, okay, so the good Facebook on the site is there's nothing on Facebook. It's just everything is user generated content, right? So UGC is user generated content. Yelp is user generated content. Facebook is user generated content. Twitter is user generated content, right? So you don't have to think about where you're getting data from. Google, however, the data that they're using to power what they're providing you for search is through these crawlers and bots that are going around the internet and basically indexing everything, the entire web. And they save that in memory and they run searches on it. And they optimize that time to search. And they do this in less than 0.5 or less than 50 milliseconds or 500 milliseconds, less than 500 milliseconds. They'll run the search, right? But the difference is when you're not doing UGC, when you're not doing user-generated content, the data has to come from somewhere. So if someone comes and says, I want to build Pandora, it's like, where are we going to get all that music data from, right? Which API are we going to call? We're going to need to get, you start to say like, oh, like if it says 90s and give them, where are we getting that music data from? What's the math and the science behind the selection of the songs, right? The Music Genome Project, Pandora, had to do a lot of work to figure all this stuff out. I mean, they struggled for like 4 or 5, even longer than that. It started like 99 until like, I think it was like 2006, 2007 where they were like running, but they went through so many challenges getting all this data right and getting the recommendations right. So people kind of overlook this thing like, oh, data are making a big mistake. You need to understand where your data is coming from and how you're presenting that data. And so a quick example is Pandora would be the music data, which is which songs are there? Do we have rights to play those songs? How much do we have to pay the musicians who published or produced those songs and the record labels? And then they have to track every song that's being played and how much they owe. So all these things have to be thought of, and then how we're recommending the data. For Expedia, Kayak has to get data from Expedia's API, from Orbit's API, from Travelocity's API, Priceline, all these different APIs. They need to get that data, and that's where they're presenting you the information. So you have to understand that that's going to cost money, and it's going to take time to ping all these APIs, and some of them have limits as to how much is free, how many times you can ping. So don't forget the data part. It's very, very common. Okay. We already did this. Okay, how do you get feedback from users? This is a very important part. So as you're trying to build something out, a lot of the times people are like, oh, I'm building this out and I want to get user feedback, so let me create a focus group. So I'll sit down everyone out. I'm like, okay, take out your phone, guys. Let's build this out. What do you guys feel? And usually that's reasonable and that kind of works, but you have to think about the key call to actions that you're trying to create and the key experience you're trying to assess for. And depending on how far you are as a company, you're going to do different types of user feedback sessions. At the beginning, you're trying to see if there's a need, right? You ask them for what their problems are, and you kind of see whether or not your idea even works. Over time, it's trying to see how they engage with the product. Okay, clearly they like that there's some value in the product, there's use to it. How are they engaging with it? You just watch them engage with it. And then another type of user feedback would be, what feature would you like that we don't have, right? So let's say she comes and says, oh, I need a feature that allows me to pay on your system on escrow, but I want to be able to include change requests mid-milestone. We don't have mid-milestone change requests, but I want to add mid-milestone change requests. Then he says, no, that doesn't, he says, I don't agree with that because mid-milestone change request is bad, blah, blah, blah. and I can hear what everyone thinks about that idea. Now I can see the relative importance of these new features and how am I going to design my product roadmap. So one of the things that's very powerful, so we have like a forum, VenturePact.com, where we have these things, and what we do is we'll say, it's like Reddit. So, what was your name again?
Lisa.
Relisa? Oh, very cool. I've never heard that. So Relisa will put something in, everyone will put something in. Then everyone has the opportunity to upvote and downvote that idea, all the users. Now what I can see is that on this like Reddit-like forum, how that feature request is irrelevant. If 30% of users who give feedback are all saying this is really important, right? And maybe 2% are saying this isn't important, it's probably pretty important. Spend time on that. And it kind of auto helps organize your feedback process by having something like that. So you can think about things like that. And there's other ways in which how you ask questions, you can phrase things very differently. For example, if I was to come to you guys and be like, hi guys, hi Nick, I have this really cool product and this is what it does. Do you need that? Right? He's gonna come super hyper, cool, check this out, I've been working on it for so long, I love it, it's amazing, this is it. I think it's super powerful, this is what it does, this is exactly how it uses it. Do you think you need it? He's like, oh, that sounds pretty cool, yeah, I probably need it. But then if I rephrase that question, he's like, hey, my friend told me this, and I don't think he's right. What do you think? This is what he said. And I'm kind of phrasing it for him to say no. He's probably going to say no, right? I don't like it, because I phrased it, and I can say it in a negative way. But you want to say something in a way that's kind of impartial, and you want to phrase it without saying, this is exactly what you're trying to do and spend your next 5 years building. Okay. So you can completely change answers with phrasing. There was a good example of this where they asked people, would you buy X for $5, Y for $20, and X plus A for $5. Everyone chose X plus A for $5. He's like, oh, this is amazing. I can get X and A for $5. Right? Now, if you remove this answer, people weren't choosing X plus A because they didn't want this A. But the fact that they could get more than X, right, was making them choose that. So the designer of this study showed that I can change your responses. They did this on highly educated people to see if even very rational, they did this on engineers, and to see engineers and mathematicians who are rational, tend to be or seem more rational, and they were able to influence your decision. People chose this even though they didn't want A. It's just the fact that as humans, we are anchored when we see this. And when you're anchored at X for 5, you're like, I can get more for the same price, let me get that. Even if that more is not relevant. That's just the amazingness of human
What do you
mind.
think about what Starbucks does with Starbucks idea and how they're crowdsourcing all the ideas and using that as a way to kind of satisfy the customers versus going through a user or focus group and asking, does this make sense?
Yeah, I think crowdsourcing ideas is great. Crowdsourcing ideas is good because you want to create an environment where people are thinking with you. So it's similar to Google Think. So Google has Google Think campaign. It's like think with Google. What are things in the world that you want to see changed? What can we do to help change the world? And you're getting, 5 people in a room can come up with ideas, but all your consumers and all how many people go through Starbucks? How many people use Google? You can leverage them and make them part of your community. That not only and you actually listen to them. What that does is it gets people thinking about you and getting a strong affiliation with your brand. So I love it. And the second thing is that you get to learn from them their ideas because they're going to come up with much more creative ideas than you, who is an executive sitting down in Seattle who doesn't see things from the consumer's perspective. So I think it's great to do that. Crowdsourcing ideas. Also, it's a different setting. In a focus group, it's harder to bring people together, and you are already there's this what we do in survey theory, right? If you were to think about it, if you think, okay, this is your sample space of customers, right? Now, what portion of these customers are going to be willing to do a focus group with you? The most active and people who like you. Or maybe the people who need your product badly, but they hate a few things in the product. So you have a very biased sample of people who are willing to come and do a focus group with you. So a focus group is not actually perfect. And also the environment in a focus group impacts other people. So if 4 people have said something, the person who really thinks this might not be shy to say something because of the environment of a focus group. Whereas if you're purely crowdsourced, people are coming up with their opinion on their own and posting their opinion on their own, then you don't have this impact to other people. So yeah, I like what they do. I like what Google does. Where to outsource? Oh, very good thing. A lot of companies ask where should we outsource, and we tell them, okay, so if you look at the world, you have the North America, South America. Again, I'm not an artist, so I'm not even trying. You have Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Middle East, Africa. I'm definitely not teaching geography here. And then here you have like Southeast Asia, like South and East Asia that come up like that. And then usually Russia, by the way, we include it with Eastern Europe. And then here like Australasia, Oceania, whatever you want. So that's kind of the role. Antarctica and North Pole don't have that much great Wi-Fi, so development doesn't make that much sense. So those are the main regions. So people are like, okay, where should I outsource, right? And we tell them, well, there's a bunch of variables that you have to consider, right? The first is where you are located, right? So if I'm located over here, which is New York City, right? Then I want people, and if I want people in my time zone, then I'm gonna choose New York, not North Carolina, Florida, or people in South America. I get them in my time zone. That's great, right? But if my budget is forcing me, my budget might force me that South America is good, but like I can get parts in Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, Africa cheaper, and I'm considering budget, I might have to go there, right? And so there's this balance between budget, location, your existing location that forces you into these different things. You're gonna make different decisions, right? If a company comes and says, my consumer is New York and I'm a luxury brand, right? For them, they probably want, their consumers are in New York, they probably want like the best designer in New York City who's going to understand their consumer and focus on that. Their developer can be anywhere, but they need designers that understand New York consumers. So they might be like, I got a designer here, for my development I can do there, for my database I can do there, for my QA I can do here. QA is quality assurance. There's a bunch of things here I didn't include, but quality assurance is one of them, which is like the person who tests products to make sure it works. So you can start to see that this gets complicated. Now, one of the most common things that we hear, is someone will say, I hired a developer in country X, or my friend did, and it didn't work out. So I never want to hire from that country again. And then I'm like, okay, where did they hire from? And they'll say a country, like, oh, they hired from Pakistan, or they hired from China. They're like, so I definitely don't want a developer from that country. I'll be like, okay. In your company, have you hired? Have you ever fired someone? Yeah, like I fired this person who did whatever, like merchandising. Where were they from? The U.S. So are you going to ever hire someone from the U.S. again? Because you just hired someone who was in merchandising, right? They're from the U.S. So by the same reasoning, the problem isn't the person, the problem is the country. So I can no longer hire merchandising people from the U.S. Let me choose another country, right?
Makes sense.
And then they're like, oh my God, you're right. It doesn't make sense. Well, my reasoning doesn't make sense. But we've heard this we've heard this so many times. And then when you give them that example, it helps them provides them this perspective that like one person is not obviously it doesn't doesn't represent the whole country. And if that was the case, then you would quickly have diminishing number of countries you can hire from, because there is this is the best way to explain it, is that in each country there is a distribution of talent. Okay? And so, great. So this is frequency. Okay? Sorry, I studied math, so you guys get it. Frequency and quality. Okay? In each country, there's this. Now, in the average country, you have normal distributions. Like, okay, you have a lot of people who are mediocre, medium, and high frequency, like a lot of mediocre. Few people are really bad, few people are really good, right? So if you choose at random, if I'm heading to a bag and pick at random, you're like most likely gonna get someone in this range. Now, there are countries with higher end, right? So countries with a lot of developers, right? So India has a lot of developers, so their frequency is much higher than other countries. But they might have a graph like that, right? They have more great developers than most countries, but they have a lot more bad developers. So if you choose at random from the plot, the frequency graph is more dense over here. So you could end up choosing here. So it's not that I can never hire from this country because there's no good developers. Your reasoning basically assumes that one experience is the whole country, and you have that the country is like this. Entire country's population, only one dot. But that's never the case. It's a distribution, and there's more density in different areas. So, yeah, if someone makes this generalization, just correct them for it because it's a generalization that you hear so many people make, and it does not lack reasoning. There's good people in every country, and I've actually visited villages with very poor, with like limited to no education system, and I've met people who are extremely talented, and I'm like, how did you study? Like, how do you first communicate English really well, and how are you like really talented as a developer and young, like early 20s type people, and they'll be like, I watch Friends, and I spend my time on YouTube, and Friends teaches me English and U.S. culture, and YouTube teaches me how to code, and and that's how I learn, and I'm so passionate about it that I wait. And by the way, for them, watching YouTube is a lot more than us because they have to wait for the buffering. It takes a lot longer for these big things to load. And I'm like, this guy's patient. He's young. And I'm like, wow, like these people are really talented. And yeah, if you took this sample in that city, there's people, the number of developers, people who call themselves developers, would be very low. So, and if they would, they would be really weak. But then you'd have one person up here. But the frequencies would be very, very low because there aren't that many developers. But like, that just shows you that you can't generalize. There's good talent there.
But how about communication? Because I work with developers
Yeah.
in Israel, and there's a time that I can't speak to them. And
Yeah.
it frustrated me because I'm
Yeah.
trying to tell them what I want, but you can only do so much over email, and after a certain time I'm stuck in meetings.
Cool.
Then it's
Great. You have my rest of my next to my slides. You have them. That's the exact question to answer. The quick answer is there's two parts. One is the time zone difference, right, which is a problem. So Israel is about 7 hours ahead of Eastern time zone. So right now, it's whatever, like 8:39. So over there, it's 4 a.m. Not a good time to talk to them, right? And so that's an issue. Time zone is one problem, and the second is cultural differences. If there's some like miscommunication in the way they kind of engage, understanding, fluency in English is another thing. But we'll go into how to manage that. What we did to help people, guide people in location selection was we created a chart. And we told them, okay, startup, mid-market, enterprise-focused firms charge differently. And in each zone, like these countries, have different costs of living. If you want to buy a sandwich in the US, it's much more expensive than Eastern Europe, which is much more expensive than parts of Africa. And so cost of living is one dimension, and then types of firm is another dimension, and you're going to see prices vary per hour for developer talent and for mid-product. So kind of that chart kind of helps summarize location selection. Okay. So now there are two things: screening and finding. Let me just make sure I'm gonna have time to go through all of this. Ooh. Okay. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna answer your question first, and then I'll come back to this because I might not have time. Okay. Managing. So we'll do managing, and we'll do screening. So the two parts. Once you've decided, the whole first part was what do we outsource, when do we outsource, how do we get the specs ready, and how do we make sure we're on board, we understand product design, we're ready to go for it, we're ready to outsource. When you come to outsourcing, you're like, all right, I got to make two decisions. One is I got to screen the outsource firms. Who am I going to work with? And the second is how am I going to manage and engage with them? Okay, so that's like outsourcing from zero to the end. Like that's the whole kind of timeline. It's a lot to cover, but I kind of touched on pieces that are where you see a lot of mess ups or failures or problems. This is one of the biggest ones, which is the management part. How do I manage development? So, a few things that we require companies to do. So, if you think about the management process, there's actually an article on Harvard Business Review that we wrote on this. It's like hbr.org/search HBR and VenturePact, and you'll see that article specifically talks about this because it's a very important problem. But I can tell you what it says. So when you think about managing developers, there's a few things you have to think about. The first thing is accountability management. Okay? So who is accountable to what? And there's 3 parts to accountability management. The first thing is who, the second thing is the task, and the third is the deadline. Okay? So the task has to be very clear. This has to be very clearly communicated. This has to be one person, not 2, not 3, one person, and this has to be set. And understand that obviously change requests are going to come in. And you remember how I said that some people ask for changes mid-milestone? The reason why that's not good to do is because that messes up your entire deadline cycle. So move changes, this is, let's say, your development thing, and you have 4 milestones. And a change request that comes in mid-milestone should not be served in that milestone. It should be served, taken in the end of that milestone, reincorporated into the next sprint. This is a sprint. By definition, a sprint means I'm running really fast. If you come and you want to change something that I'm doing, I'm no longer going to be able to sprint. You're going to slow me down. Wait until the end of the sprint, build that up. Why one person? Because so many times you'll be speaking with 3 people, the whole dev team, you say, guys, this needs to get done. And at the end of the one, when you ask someone who did it, everyone points like this, right? You give one person, they're accountable, they're a deadline, and it's clear, right? You tell them build a login portal, right? And they build a login portal, and there's no forgot password functionality, right? The login portal is a module, okay? And in every module, you have what we call user stories. And in those user stories, you have things like, validate that the email ID exists, right? It's like at yahoo.com, at gmail.com. Validate that password is not password. Like, password has to be intelligent. Password should not be like less than 6 characters. Password should have different one. So you have all these validations. Forgot password functionality, right? So if you tell someone build a login module by this deadline, they're crashed for time, they're gonna be like, okay, cool. Someone can come in, the email's not validated, the password can suck, and there's no forgot password functionality. But they built a login module. The end of it, you come and you'll call us up, you're like, oh, this is terrible, right? You call up the dev team, this is terrible. Why is it terrible? Because it doesn't have all these features. Was it communicated clearly? No. Should they have done this? Probably. Today, this is pretty obvious that this needs to be done. But it wasn't communicated clearly. Communicate, this needs to be clear. If you're trying to be lazy with your communication, you're going to pay in the long run. And you have to set deadlines. And understand, you have to set deadlines with the product manager. Do not set deadlines if you don't understand development. Okay, this needs to be done in 2 months because I need to launch this is what Google said. I need to launch before Christmas holiday season for sales. So this needs to be done in 2 months. So let me assign deadlines based on that. But there's another thing that impacts deadlines, which is the time that it actually takes to build things. So if you assign deadlines based on your deadline versus what it actually takes to build something, you're going to create this contention. Words are like, no, this doesn't make sense, and you're like, yes, it does, and you have this fight. So that's why it's accountability management number 2. Number 2 is chat. So there's many tools for chat. I don't know if I went into detail on it. Okay. So within collaboration, chat is one part of collaboration, and then calls is the second part of collaboration. Within chat, so Slack or HipChat or whatever tool you use for communication, for chat, we require that each team, client team, supplier team, have a 2-hour overlap in working hours. So if you're working with an Israeli team, they're 7 hours ahead of you, right? So from 9 a.m. Eastern to 11 a.m. Eastern, which in Israel, Lebanon, Middle East area in general, is around 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Okay? Those 2 hours, both sides need to be available on one chat interface of your choice to communicate, available and online. What that really does is that any questions can be done during those 2 hours. And that's a first requirement that helps alleviate problems because you have that immediate response. What's really annoying is if you're not available during those 2 hours, let's say you have meetings and you're really busy or whatever during those 2 hours, and you ask them a question at 12 p.m. 12 p.m. they're no longer in the office. You need the answer to this question because you have a meeting later on or it's a very important thing that's going to cause discussion. They're going to have to wait until the next day in the morning, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., whatever, when they start work. At 9 a.m., it's 4 p.m. here, or 9 a.m., it's 2 a.m. here, right? So they start, they can't talk to you until 4 p.m. 4 p.m. the next day starts, and so you can start to see how this time lag causes problems. That's why this 2-hour overlap is very, very fundamental. And everyone who doesn't want to do this, each day is setting them up for a disaster. Okay? The next thing about chat, so you have to be available and you have to, there's a few things you can do with chat rooms. I can go into detail about this, but you want to create chat rooms for different types of conversations, and you want it to be searchable and indexable for future conversations and for help for knowledge management. There's a lot of things you can do here. This is the basics for chat. For calls, every day there's a stand-up call. During this 2 hours, usually at the beginning, there's a stand-up call that takes around 10 minutes. That's done voice, preferably video, where you can meet the person, see the person on video. During that 10-minute video stand-up, there's 3 questions that you ask. The 3 questions are: 1, yesterday's work, what happened yesterday. 2, today, what are you going to do today? And 3, what challenges are you currently facing? And this third part is the most important one. What are the challenges you're currently facing? If this is not covered, things break apart. Because what usually happens is if I'm struggling with building a forgot password functionality, that's not a good example because that's not hard. But let's say you're building an app for college students where a college student takes a picture of the board and that board is then focused on and it becomes like really easily readable kind of information, so you don't have to take notes in class. So let's say the developer is struggling to recognize the different aspects of the board because some boards are white boards, some boards are black boards, and they're having trouble kind of finding order. And that's impacting the way they're able to focus the imaging on it. So that's a challenge. Now, if the developer doesn't talk to you about the challenges early on, what starts to happen is these build up a lot of challenges, and you think everything's going smoothly. And they're kind of shy to tell it to you because you're going to shout at them, or you don't have a great relationship, or you're not communicating properly. And then these things start to go. Covering these every day, properly focus on challenges, you start seeing things from the beginning, and something's going to fall apart. So you can better plan, and you can better help them solve these problems. Speaking with an expert or guiding them.
What tools do you recommend for managing tasks and for bugs?
Yeah, sure. Tools for bugs and accountability.
Yeah, I mean, like bug herd or.
Yeah. So sure. So a great tool, I mean, the biggest and one of the best tools for a bug is Jira for that management. Another one is Basecamp, which is pretty good. Then there's a lot of tools like Trello, which have advantages with their calendar graph, and that's pretty good. But you're gonna the thing with now, there's a lot of pluses and minuses for each one, right? Some people are very passionate about each one. But Jira is huge and it's very powerful. Asana is another one. Slack can be used for communication and for that. And I mean, there are a lot, but these are like probably the biggest 5. You can also think of HipChat, other Atlassian products for chatting. And then for calls, you have Uber Conference, you have Scribble, you have Fusebox, you have Skype, Hangouts, many options. But the key here with calls is how do you... so the good things about some of these products is that what it allows you to do is you can call from your cellular network in the local country, any country, and that network, or you can call over the internet, and the other person in any other country can also call over network over the internet. So it makes it very convenient on any device. So if you do cross-device cross data, Wi-Fi, or cell network. So basically, like, it makes it very convenient to be able to do calls anywhere. And culture. This is something usually that gets forgotten. And so the team that you're working with, you have to have some sort of social collaboration with them and culture. So a tool like Yammer, a WhatsApp group, or personal check-ins are very important. So what we do is every week we say that you should have. So you have daily professional check-ins. These are daily professional check-ins. But you should have 1 week a personal check-in. So what the personal check-in is you learn about the other person. What's going on in their life? Are they getting married in 2 weeks? Do they have something going on? And these every 1 week personal check-ins are very important because it helps you understand who they are and where they're going. Especially when you're doing cross-cultures, right? So a lot of people think this is not important, but it is, and you get to learn about what's going on with them, and you can better relate to them, and if you want, if they're doing a good job, it's a good way to build a relationship and to build culture. Another thing about culture and these other tools is that when they have a good relationship with you, they are going to tell you much more detail about their challenges because they're much more comfortable. Whereas if there's this negative relationship and there's this, because the traditional outsourcing experience is, someone in New York, shouts at someone in India, get this done. And they work on it, and then if it doesn't look great, they get shouted at again. And there's this, not a good environment. So culture is very important because you want to change that, change the whole game, change the way that works, so that it's, so they have relationships. So personal check-ins are one thing, especially with remote teams. Try to do video when you speak with someone so you can get a sense of their emotions. And another thing that's very important is that sometimes phrasing is off. So in different countries, they'll say things that in the US you think they're being impolite, but it's just them not fully understanding the context or the way things are said. So you also want to be cognizant that they might be a little more firm and more direct, or they might say something that they don't mean. So you want to understand that with video you can kind of get a sense: are they actually frustrated, or are they saying something out of being polite? So I think that's one thing. But as you can see, all of these things actually are one thing. All of these things are just communication, right? The way you communicate what has to be done, the way you communicate instantly, the way you communicate when it needs to be done, the way you communicate over chat, the way you communicate over calls, the way you communicate about the personal life. Communicate. So you will never, at the end of a project, there has been 0 companies that we've worked with. We worked with hundreds of companies that have told us we communicated too much. 0 companies that have said we've communicated too much. So basically over-communicate. No one will ever tell you at the end of a project we communicated too much. It just won't happen because you can never communicate too much. Over-communicate, and you're probably under-communicating, even if you communicate more than you think you should. Okay, screening decks. This is a thing that so many people get wrong, and it can really hurt you because if you have a good screening process, then that distribution that we said, a good screening process will get you down to a bad screening process will get you down in most probably the median. If that's the distribution is like this, then a bad screening process is very dangerous. You end up over there. So because that's the median, right? It's the high frequency density is over here, so that's where you most likely choose. So screening is going to help you get over there, and that's what matters. So how do you screen? One thing that a lot of people do when they screen is they say, oh, I want to screen this person. They'll get on a call with a developer. They'll be like, okay, tell me your strengths and tell me your weaknesses as a developer, and tell me a bit about yourself. And then they'll ask them a tough algorithm problem. They'll tell them, assume you have 2 coins and you're trying to drop the coins from a building with 100 floors, and you want to optimize the process by which you have 2 light bulbs, and you're trying to drop the light bulbs from the floor. You're trying to optimize write an algorithm that tells you at which floor those light bulbs are gonna crack. What's the floor where it the first cracks? So before it doesn't crack, and one above it cracks. Write an algorithm that's the most efficient way to get you to not get that thing to crack. Now that's a good question for someone who's doing algorithms. It's a data science. You can see how we think about making efficient algorithms, right? So obviously, it would not be efficient to start on 100. You like the basic thing would be start on 100 and you just go down. Does it crack at 100? No. 99? No. Right? But the runtime for that would be 100. The worst case scenario for that would be 100. I start on 100. The worst case scenario would be cracks at 1. Runtime would be 100. And that means obviously they're not thinking about it in the right way, right? So the best case scenario would be like 13 or 14, where you have a smart system to do that, and you can optimize it. But that's actually not the best way to grade developers, because most developers, web or mobile, are actually not spending their time writing these complex algorithms. What they're actually doing is they're coding. So instead of asking them these questions like where are your weaknesses or tell me about, just tell me about yourself, and things like that, is you want to have the full technical interview on how to on code. So the way we screen tech talent and tech tools. So I kind of mentioned it over there a bit, but the first thing is it's their clients. What are their clients? What are their spaces? And instead of calling up their clients, the same thing, when you ask for client feedback, it's very similar to asking for feedback on users. You don't say, hey, tell me about your experience with this company. Was it good? Yes. No. Kind of. Okay. That doesn't give me information. That tells me short answers. You want to get information. Information about how they manage challenge, how they deal with these changes, how they deal with these problems. What have they learned? How have they changed things? That gives you a lot of detail about their clients. So first, be clients. Second is, what have they built, and what part of what they have built have they, what did they contribute to? So sometimes, like, let's say an example. Someone comes and says, oh, I participated in the building of Facebook.com, right? And we ask them, like, what did you do in Facebook? It's like, oh, we came in as Facebook hired ethical hackers to come in and hack the system to help expose vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities, right? So when you say build Facebook.com, you would think like, oh great, I need to build a huge consumer-facing product with billions of users, or over a billion users, or hundreds of million users. Then I should use this guy. But this guy's a security guy who works on ethical hacking. So he doesn't build huge, massive, scalable consumer-facing applications. He builds security ones. So understand what they built. And so this is like portfolio. And then any open source contributions. They've contributed things to open source, and you can see how they write code. And so and you can see how passionate they are about code. So people contribute a lot to open source as well. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Number 3. Oh, perfect. Cool. We'll be able to get to most of this. Number 3 was fully open source tools. So the tools that I mentioned before, each of them have advantages and disadvantages. Someone who's done remote work and understands how to build remotely. By the way, when you hire remote talent, it's very different from hiring in-house talent. And the main difference is how communication works and how tools are leveraged. So that's why we have to really think a lot about tools. So if someone comes to you and says they use a product, why do they use the product? It gives you a lot of information about them. We don't necessarily say like, oh, they don't use the products that we like the most, that means they're not good. We tell them, why do you use your product? We understand that each product has plus and minuses. If they have really good understanding of that, then you can say that these guys understand what work. Because the points they mentioned make sense. The fourth thing is the team. Who's the team? The dev profiles, the management team, the PM, and how is it organized? So you have very interesting structures of teams. You have companies where you have salespeople and client-facing in New York. They have dev teams in North Carolina, design teams in the Netherlands, right? And QA teams in Eastern Europe. That's one company, right? So you can imagine how that impacts search. So you want to understand how is that located, where's QA, where's dev, where's design, where's sales, where's PM, where's the project manager, where's the person I'm going to interface with, okay? And how that's structured. So you want to get their profiles, management team, their backgrounds, why are they doing what they're doing, what do they love doing. And the fifth thing is the most important part. And no one does this because it's time consuming and it's hard and it's not fun. Well, over time you want to do. But it's what we do and we love doing is something very important. It's a screen share assignment, coding assignment. And this is where you get data. It's where you get the most powerful data. So you give them an assignment, usually it takes about an hour, and during that assignment, you ask them to screen share with you as they solve the problem. And what that does is it now gives you, during the screen share, you as a developer are going to be able to see how that person tackles the problem. The assignment has to be very intelligent engineer, testing engineer, such that they can complete it in an hour. has to be engineered such that there's at least one bottleneck or challenge that the person most likely would not have seen in the past. And the third is that it's going to be engineered in a way such that the first way in which you would solve a problem is not actually the most ideal way to solve it. So you give them the assignment and tell them, okay, these are 4 test cases that you have to pass, or whatever, test cases. At the end of the assignment, if you're to pass the test cases, that means that is good. But that's not great. That's why you do screen share. What you're doing in the screen share is you're trying to see as they write the code, how are they thinking, what questions are they asking, how are they doing research, how are they structuring the code, their styling. And it's not just about getting these cases to pass. Because I could figure out, if I drop the bulbs from every floor, I could figure out which floor the bulb would break. But that wouldn't be the most efficient way. And as we said, if you want to reduce friction, you need to be efficient. You need to be fast. People aren't going to wait around for a long time. They don't. So screen share, that's the whole point of the screen share. So you do this, and this has to be done properly. But that gives you the best data on how good they are technically, on their culture, like are they going crazy during the assignment, are they being impolite, or do they panic, or how they respond to challenges, and how they search when they have a problem. You can tell from the way they search how much knowledge they actually have. And that gives you more data than anything else.
Wouldn't that just imply that you're quite well versed already as the person hiring them in this technology?
Oh yeah, you have to understand. If this needs to be done by developers.
Right, okay, so if you already are a developer, if you already have a developer testing another developer, then what do you do if you're not technologically minded, and how do you test them and know what they're doing? Do you have to then hire someone to do that? Or
Usually what you do,
do you see where that's then a problem?
Yeah,
if you're not technologically versed yourself, then,
yeah.
but if you are, then surely you should be able to kind of do it yourself, or you could be independently doing your own work.
Yeah.
This is where it becomes a problem because you're outsourcing for a reason, because you can't do it yourself.
Yeah, well, so, okay, within outsourcing, you have people who outsource. They have a dev team, but that dev team can't do all the work that they have. So the dev team has a team number 2 that they outsource to. Another type of outsourcing is when you have like a marketing team, and the marketing team has an idea that they think is efficient, or an entrepreneur. Now they don't have technical skills.
Mm-hmm.
So what they either do is they'll have a CTO tech advisor come in and do the review. The reason we exist is because we do this rigorously. That's what we do. We spend time doing that. So you come to us, a company like us, or the marketing team would talk to the dev team and say, hey, we need our developers to build this out. Can you vet this person?
So what are your indications that this is a good candidate for outsourcing? And the corollary, what are your indications that this person is just a bad candidate for outsourcing and you're not ready for it yet?
Yeah, so before the test or after the test or both?
Both.
Okay, so here, if they don't understand communication and tools, that's a big problem. If you ask a lot of questions of their clients and how they manage communication, the requirements they set, you get a lot of information on this. There's a note here that clients, though, always think that every problem is on the dev team side. A lot of the times, though, clients are also at fault. If a client doesn't want to give them their time, they're asking the dev teams to make assumptions. They're forcing them to make assumptions. The dev team's going to make assumptions, and if they argue, and that's why you have to ask smart questions, is that you need to understand which side, what did the supplier, what did the dev team actually do, and why was it done that way, and you can get a sense. That's what you have to do with multiple clients. You're always going to have one client that says, oh, I was really busy, I had work, but they didn't give me what I wanted at the end. And you're going to get more detail down, it's like we weren't giving them any time. So you want to get, this part is huge. This part is good. This open source and what they've built, you see it, gives you a lot of data about like what they've done. But this, I mean, nothing beats this. You get to see them in action. How they're searching, how they're thinking, how they're asking questions, how they're designing. And as they ask questions aloud, even if they say like, because I only have an hour, I'm going to do it like this, but I know that to make this more reusable, to make this easy for the next developer who's going to touch this code, this is what I would do instead. This is how I'm naming my products. This is how I'm commenting every function. This is how I'm making it easy to understand. This is how I'm thinking about the structure. This is how I'm thinking about the architecture, how I would have done it if I had more time. Those types of thought process, that's what you do.
Is that one of your pivots? Let's say you bring in a CTO, or you're like, you need somebody else in here to work with the developers, and we have somebody in idea for that. And then you just add another layer in for communicating with the developers. Because let's say the person just doesn't know how to speak code but has a great idea for a site.
You're saying there's an idea person.
Yeah.
And then
And that's it.
a developer.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in between.
Yeah.
Then it's the responsibility of the idea person to play product manager. The idea person needs to. The developer will, if it's a dev team, if you're trying to build a product and you have a dev designer, front end, back end, dev, and then a designer, then they usually will have a guy PMing who's probably 3/4 or a full-time person on a 3-person team. He's like helping assign tasks and helping guide. You need to work together, but this person is responsible for communicating. Unless you have a tech advisor come in and do communication, but you guys, this side has to communicate with this side, and both of them needs to have a communication person who's running the show. If no one's running the show here, we need one person who's fully dedicated or very dedicated on each side to make it work. Otherwise, it's going to fall apart. Because this is not going to work. I'll give you one thing that came to mind that I felt interesting was talking about speed. There's one thing that sites do that's really interesting. That this is just fun. This is just a cool thing to know. Not necessarily super useful, but it's a good design thing that came to my mind that I thought you guys would find interesting. So you know when you search on Kayak or Orbitz, so you search something, okay, and then they have the results page. You know before the results page they have like a loading thing, right? Like and it takes usually 2 to 3 seconds to load. Do you know why they do that?
Oh, because you're still on the page and ads can, just revenue-wise, ads can be running during that time. It keeps you on the page longer.
Interesting. That's not why they did it, but that's an interesting idea. So these sites actually have the data very well indexed that they can immediately show you the data. They don't have to do that. They can immediately show you the information. But they did A/B tests and they found that people saw less value in their product when the information came immediately. Like, oh, they didn't even think, but whereas when they see it thinking like, oh, they're doing work, and they think that the site is like, oh, like it's doing work for them. So they actually saw this, but just a small weight, not like it's a very quick thing, but they put it there, that delays things, a small amount of time, changes consumer impression. It's very interesting. I didn't know that actually until I thought I was actually thinking, but it's not. They could just sell it to you immediately. They're just doing it. And it's just this cool thing that I thought was interesting. I think one. Okay. Oh, question about outsourcing. There's a good ebook. I think it's good because I was involved in the writing process. So I'm biased, but I think it's a really good ebook about how to outsource. And there's a bunch of resources that I can send you guys. Contact me. Definitely take my info and reach out to me on any of the available options. You can connect me on LinkedIn, email me. If you want to tweet, you can tweet at me. But I'm happy to answer any questions or anything I can help you with. We've been doing this for a while, so we can give you good information that's specific to your industry or your ideas. But I think outsourcing is very powerful, but as I mentioned, it has to be done properly. Otherwise, you can think of how many opportunities there are for failure. From choosing the wrong team, to not communicating, to them not communicating, to errors in relationships and personal relationships, to just not being the right fit, to just poor technical competency. Okay, questions?
From a legal standpoint,
Oh.
if you outsource a project, technically the coder owns the copyright belonging to all the code that they do. If you've outsourced, and for instance you're outsourcing remotely, are there plenty of complications there to be able to legally obtain that code if they are not within reach of you? If they are they have a sort of bigger ability to just disappear off the map, considering they're not part of an agency that are grounded and based in an office?
Yeah. So the answer is different from freelance. Like us specifically work with teams.
Yeah.
So the team has usually a company, and the company is liable. So you sue the company if you were trying to do a lawsuit. If it was a freelancer, freelancers are much harder to manage because freelancers are just themselves and they're on their own.
Yeah.
So that's a little more complicated than a team. But the few things you can do for IP. So within IP, there's a couple things. One is data. Right? So if I'm a healthcare company, I have data on all my users, a lot of personal data, right? From your heart, your history of whatever, your heart conditions to your height and weight, things that are radiology scans, and then under data there's the code itself, which is now in data, which would be the email address information, the credit card information, the patient data information. That has to be very careful with. Usually, what you do is you put it behind. You don't. When developer codes, you don't give them actual access to this information. You let them talk to that information. So you have an interface where they can talk to it, but they can't actually access it. And so you don't want to do that. That's more dangerous. Like the patient data itself, like it's actually illegal in the US to give by HIPAA. HIPAA compliance does not do that. So you can't do that. For credit card data, so also you have to be careful. That's one thing, but when you talk about code, the way that's usually structured is every milestone. So the way we do it is at the beginning of the milestone. So this is milestone 2. We just finished milestone 1. We're going to start milestone 2. The money for this milestone is funded over here. So let's say this is X dollars. You fund the X dollar. The client funds X dollars at the beginning of the milestone. The money comes into escrow. At the end of the milestone has to be clearly laid out and clear. If it's complete and both sides agree, then it's deposited into the supplier. The ownership of the code can run in 2 ways. This code, during that process, the code will either be done. So let's assume that the GitHub, where the code is written, and the AWS, where it's hosted, is owned by the client. Most often it is owned by the client, not the dev side. Sometimes the dev requires this, but usually you want to own it, be on your dashboard. Now, when this is on your dashboard, their code is automatically on. You kind of have access to the code at all times, and because GitHub has version controls, you have the previous versions. So in this case, if you own it, you actually have access to it the whole time. So there's no actual code convert. The only reason that they're willing to do that is because they can see that the code is in the escrow, the money's in the escrow system, and they will get paid if they complete it. If you don't do this escrow system, the escrow system, we did it for, the reason why we force this is, one, it creates trust for both sides that they're going to get compensated and it'll be reasonable. It'll be fair for both sides. 3 is it helps for the IP, so the client can always kind of own the IP fully, outright. So the developer will never own the IP. In this case, so you just have the AWS, the money's there. If you don't do this, then there's this whole thing of the client, the dev team will kind of want to own the code until the payment is made. Then you'll own the code. That's what we usually do.
Okay.
And then when the payment is made, you will get ownership. But the IP rights within the code, usually, a lot of what is done in code, the actual functions are not super, unless you're doing like an image processing thing where specific aspects of your algorithm, the way you're processing imaging is unique. If you're just doing like a tech-enabled business, like an e-commerce site, if you're using Magento or something, then you don't, there's not as much IP in the technology. The technology is not revolutionary. Usually the power of an e-commerce site is more in the merchandising, the products, the marketing, the design, than is in technology. So then it's not as big of an issue, but you definitely want to be able to own the code itself.
Thank you.
Other questions? How are we doing that time? We have 7 minutes left. I can stick around if people want to ask me personal questions. You can ask me personal questions, but if you want to come out and personally ask me a question, you can do that too. But hopefully it was somewhat useful. And yeah, feel free to connect with me and keep in touch.